many other speakers that you've heard over this weekend who's given so much value. They've all told their stories, and we've all got our own stories. We've all overcome difficult times and challenging times, and you've just heard of Maz's challenging times, so now it's my time to share. So I'm going to just quickly go over my story so that, again, you can kind of understand where we've been and, you know, how we are where we are now, because you're seeing us up here speaking, but there's a whole load of other things that have happened on our way up to here. So 17 years ago, I was raped. And I was raped in a place where I should have been safe and secure. It was my own bedroom. And I was raped by somebody that I should have been able to call a friend. It was somebody that I worked with, and at that time, I didn't want to report it. I felt ashamed. I felt as though I should have been able to do something about it. I felt as though it was my fault, so I took a lot of responsibility for it, and it hugely affected me. And I was lucky with work because I did tell them about it, and they arranged for some counselling for me, which was absolutely brilliant because it helped me kind of get through day in, day out, coping with going to work and having to face my perpetrator. Still did it, still went in, day out, put my mask on. Probably quite a few people can relate with putting a mask on and going through life. So I'd done that day in and day out, but I kept it a secret. There was a few people that knew, a few people that lived with me because they could see the change in me. Other than that, nobody knew anything about it until February this year. February this year, I decided to publicly tell people about it via a Facebook Live, which was so scary, but I did it. And it was only a few days before that I told my mum and dad about it, which was probably even scarier, to be honest, because I had to tell my mum and dad that news. I never wanted to tell them what had happened to me because I didn't want to hurt them. But then I realised I'm not hurting them. It was the perpetrator that would hurt them or could potentially hurt people, not me. It happened to me, and I'd let it affect me for so long. I kind of let it allow me to become a victim, and I wasn't going to allow that to happen to me any longer. So I went and done a Facebook Live, and I told my parents, and I told a few people in some speaking events, very small groups of people, but you guys are the biggest audience that I stood in front of to tell that part of my story. So I wanted to share that.
My inspiration, is going to tell you.
But the thing is, these things happen to us. That's the point. You know, we go through difficult times. And I think somebody mentioned it yesterday. We need to allow ourselves to become vulnerable because actually our vulnerabilities can turn out to be our greatest strengths. And by coming out and telling my story, I've been able to help so many people. So many women have come to me now to help come to terms with sexual assault and abuse that they've also endured, that they haven't been able to come to terms with. And although I had that counselling, which was absolutely wonderful, it gave me the coping strategies that I needed to get through each day. At that time, it was fantastic, but I hadn't dealt with it properly because I just buried myself into work. I just needed to keep busy, keep going, keep moving forward, except for I wasn't really moving forward. I was just literally keeping myself busy. So that was basically running behind the scenes in the background all of those years. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit later because there's another part of my story which a lot of people do know about. But I wanted to start with that because we will come back to it in just a second. So if you kind of fast forward another 5 years, so after that, I had changed jobs at this time, so I was working in a completely different place, and I was a recruitment consultant. And I was really busy, like everybody, and in my mind, I've got a million things to do on my to-do list, and I'm not present. I'm not in the present moment. I'm just ticking off the list in my head. I need to do this, I need to do that. So one lunchtime, working through my mental to-do list, and I just wasn't paying attention. So I'd been and had a sunbed. Certainly don't need one right now, just been to Tenerife. And two guys were coming up the stairs. I had one flight of stairs to kind of go down through. And I thought to myself, don't cross on the stairs, it's bad luck. So just stay right where you are, right for a minute. So I let them come up the stairs, and then as I went to go down the stairs, my heel caught on the lip of the step. And I kind of went down the entire flight of stairs on my bum and just bounced on every single one. Happened so quickly, but so slowly at the same time. And I kind of ended up in this heap right at the bottom, sort of all over the place. My bag had flown off somewhere. And I heard this little voice behind me going, "Oh, are you okay?" It's like, somebody's seen me. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I need to get up. I need to move. This is awful. So that's what I did. I kind of got myself up quickly, and I could feel my back wasn't quite right. But I was more concerned because I hit my head at that point. I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm all right. Yeah, I just grabbed everything. They sort of disappeared, and then afterwards I was like, ooh, that was a bit sore. So then I tried sort of walking. I was still on my lunch break. So I'm still thinking in my head, oh, I still got all these things that I need to do, so I need to carry on. But as I tried to walk, I couldn't really walk properly. And I was kind of doing this shuffle. And that's all that I could manage. But still, in my head, I've got to get on. I've got to do all these things. I've got a gym induction tomorrow. I've got to go swimming. I need to get a little swimming costume and everything like that. So I hadn't kind of come to terms. I was avoiding it. So I went back to work for the rest of the afternoon, and didn't even go to the hospital till the next day. In fact, my mum forced me to go to the hospital the next day. And that's when they told me that I'd broken my coccyx in my back. Quite painful. And I used to carry around a little coccyx cushion with me so that I could still go to work and still sit quite comfortably at home, as best as you can with a broken coccyx anyway. But I still carried on working. I carried on going, just keep going, keep moving forward, threw myself into my career. See a pattern? So that's what I did. But then I burnt myself out, totally. I carried on that way for about another 4 or 5 months, and I was only having a few hours sleep every night. I was on very, very heavy pain medication so that I could try and get through everything, and I just burnt myself out, and my doctor signed me off work. So I thought, okay, that's fine. Maybe I do need to rest a little bit. I could probably sleep for a month right now, so okay, I'll do that. So that's fine. And then I lost my job while I was off. So I was like, okay then. And they could do that because that particular company, I hadn't been working with them for a year, and they decided that was best for them for that to happen. Okay, that's fine, fair enough. I'll just concentrate on getting myself better then. So it's a very, very, very long process. I was seeing physio, pain rehabilitation, spinal consultants. They were umming and ahhing about doing surgery, but at that time I was 28 when it first happened, so they weren't too chuffed really to do any surgery on me because of my age. So I went through pain management and heavy, heavy pain medication. I was actually at one stage, I was on 21 tablets a day just to get me through each day and just so I could cope, although I wasn't really coping. And those painkillers then made me really ill because I'm only little, let's face it, and taking 21 tablets a day, well, are they really good for anybody, but you're such small frame as well, and they actually ripped out my tummy lining. So then I couldn't keep anything down. I couldn't keep food down, and I couldn't keep water down. So I went down to 5.5 stone in weight, completely dehydrated, and then I was hospitalised, so at least they could get some dehydration back in me, and then I saw a dietitian. And then I started doing very, very slow, gentle sort of exercise to try and get some movement and to build some strength up in my back. But I had lost my purpose. My career was everything to me before that had happened. And I didn't know who I was. I'd lost my identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was feeling. I couldn't put my finger on anything. So I felt so worthless at that point. I just felt I had nothing at all, apart from I could just help my friends out with their children. And I just felt as though I was watching everybody else get on with their lives while I was just sat on the sidelines just watching them. So I fell into a bit of a deep, dark hole of despair and had depression and anxiety. And I felt so, so worthless at that point that I self-harmed. And then I felt really shameful that I self-harmed. Again, in my head was like, oh, my mum and dad, I don't again want to hurt them. I want, it's awful for them to think of their daughter going through anything like this. So again, hid that. They are aware now, they're aware much, much later. And I wasn't coping with things very well. And I just wanted to, well, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But I fell to the rock bottom, basically. And I just thought, enough's enough. Something needs to change. This is my life. I've always been ambitious. I wanted my own business. I wanted to do so much with my life. I was so young and full of life at one point. And then I turned into this person who completely isolated themselves, pushed everybody else away. And I just I had no interest in anything whatsoever. I was just a shadow of the person that I used to be. It was absolutely awful. So I hit rock bottom and thought, no, no, something needs to change here. So I decided that enough was enough and I need to make a change because I've got one life. You know, I've had all this rubbish that's gone on. It's up to me to change it. And the only person that is going to change it is me. And it's my responsibility. My life is my responsibility. So that's what I did. I took responsibility at that point and I made that decision that I need to change. There's so much more to life than just sitting in my flat day after day, watching TV, and just doing nothing with myself. So that's what I did. So I've always been interested in the human mind and human behaviour. I've been fascinated with it. So I started a psychology degree with the Open University so that I could study at home around my back, which was still dodgy at the time, and those mental health challenges, so I could kind of overcome those things. I started seeing a psychologist for about a year. I was only meant to have 4 sessions. I think he felt a bit sorry for me. So he's like, go on then, come back every week then if you need to. So he really helped me out. I went through CBT, trained in it as well now. And then I thought, I need to get back to work. Work has been such a big thing of my life for so long. I need to get back into work. But I didn't want to go into a part-time job where I could potentially call in sick. I had all that anxiety and that worry that kept flooding my body. So I went into a network marketing company because I thought I could work whatever hours I wanted to around my back and my mental health challenges at the time. So that's exactly what I did. So it gradually, day by day and month by month, I built up my confidence because my confidence and my self-esteem, everything was just at rock bottom. So I built it up slowly and gradually, and then eventually met Maz. And then the rest is history with regards to us. Here we are today. But at that point, I still had big insecurities. I had big trust issues. I had something that was just not right at all. So it's like, I've got all these good things, my life's moving forward now, but something's still not quite right at all. I still wasn't happy with myself. And what was running in the background was all of that I'd carried with me for 17 years because I kept attracting the wrong men. I kept attracting the men who just wanted one thing. You know, they were commitment phobes. They just didn't want me for anything other than that thing. So that, even more, was making me feel worthless. You know, my self-esteem was even lower. So I needed to change, and I needed to deal with that. So that's when I'd seen on Facebook an advert from my now mentor talking about dealing with particularly sexual assault. So contacted him, and then I had NLP and timeline therapy myself so that I could get to the root cause of the problem, rip it all out. And then that's when you and I decided to get together, and I met the man of my dreams and the relationship that I've always wanted to have. Right there. But the reason why we wanted to tell you those stories is because sometimes the worst day of your life can actually turn out to be the best. Because if we hadn't gone through all of those things, we wouldn't be here today, you know, and we wouldn't be the people that we are today. And you've got a choice. You can either allow things to consume you and overwhelm you, which we did for a certain amount of time, or you can let things motivate you and inspire you. And it all comes down to emotional intelligence.